Hey everybody, I'm Yvonne Williams with Back to Earth Creations, and in this tutorial I would like to show y'all how to make your own cane for making lily pads out of polymer clay. So let's get started. To make our lily pads or leaves, whatever we decide to make with this cane, I've gone through and I've started off with some leaf green, some bright green, and this is a Sculpey 3, this one's a Primo Sculpey, and then this is Sculpey 3 Granny Smith. You could use whatever colors that you like, but I've rolled them out on my thickest setting on the pasta machine, and I've used this cutter to kind of get a consistent shape. And now I'm going to be going through and cutting kind of crosswise like that. You can kind of see. And then I'll actually be taking the pieces and layering them together just to double the thickness. You don't necessarily have to do that, but... And then for this one, I'm actually cutting it, just marking in half, but then cutting each of those halves in half. And this is going to give us a really nice, hopefully, center color. Now, something to keep in mind, the Primo is much stiffer, much firmer than the Sculpey 3. So these colors being softer and being on the ends are going to kind of squish out the sides. So that's just kind of something to plan around, and I'm personally okay with that. But I would have preferred to have used maybe a thicker cane, or perhaps, not a thicker cane, a stiffer clay. Sorry, I'm still waiting for my first cup of coffee to kick in, so, but a stiffer clay, or at least used a consistency of where they're all either soft or they're all very firm. That way they'll work well together. But on something like this, like with a leaf cane, I am 100% okay with it being very messy and organic and just pretty good. And so you can see if I want more of the center color, I should bring it out like this. That way I leave more of the center untinted by the other colors. So I'm going to take this and I am going to feed it through my pasta machine, which it's going to be kind of loud because I was gifted a motor, but man, it makes a big difference being able to use both of your hands. Now you can see it went through on the thickest setting, and I'm just going to take this, and you can really tell the softer clays spread much farther. So I'm just going to fold that in half and then feed it through again. So again, you can see they really like to spread. Whenever that happens, I just kind of fold it down, smush it, kind of redistribute if the ends keep spreading, but already you can see that very slight tone change right there where there's a little bit of overlapping. So I'm going to continue to just keep folding and feeding through. You don't want to feed through the end just yet. You want to keep feeding through. You kind of shoop this way. I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to keep doing that, and then I'll meet you guys right back here. I got some glitter in it. Right back here for the next step. Here you can see, again, we're getting a little bit more of that gradient. You can see, you know, the lines and stuff. So I'm going to keep folding and rolling and feeding this through. If you get any little air bubbles, just go through and kind of distort them a bit, get the air bubbles out, and then just keep on feeding it through that pasta machine. I do love that bright green though. And if I feel like I'm getting too much spread on the ends, you can always go back in later and add these solid colors back in. So I'll just slice them off, and that way as it keeps spreading out, it will still fit into the pasta machine. Now again, it's gotten about the width of my pasta machine, but I'm not quite done blending. So I folded it in half, and now I'm just gonna squish. Just kind of pressing these ends in together. Kind of re-squaring it up. And then I'm going to feed that through, and I'll show you what it looks like. So now that's given us a nice blend. I want to keep, there's like how there's almost a hard line there. To offset those hard lines, what I do is instead of lining the line up with itself, I'm going to offset it just a little bit like that. And I feel like that helps me kind of blend out that line. So again, more folding and rolling is in our future, and so I'll meet you guys right back here. And so now we have a really nice even color gradient, and I'm going to add back on our little end extension pieces. And I'm going to feed this through, actually, this way, through the pasta machine. And so now, I mean, that line is still there, but what we are going to do now is, do we fold it in half? Because I want to start making it very long, so I am actually going to fold it in half once more. But instead of feeding it through this way, I'm going to feed it through this way. And this is where having the motor really comes in handy, because that way I don't have to be using one hand cranking, I can be using both hands kind of controlling how it's feeding through. So I may actually flip the camera around and get some video of how that happens. So please pardon my super duper messy workstation. I am in the middle of just a creative binge and have not made the time to tidy up. So hashtag crafter life. This is the motor. It just hooks in like that, and it's going to be quite loud. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be feeding through on the thickest setting and then knocking it down a thickness, feeding it back through, knocking it down, feeding it through. Now you can see here it kind of got a little bit of a bend in it, so I'm just going to gently, without tearing it, straighten that back out because I want a really nice long thin ribbon. So down to 2. So I have brought it through to my 6th setting. I could probably go thinner, but I don't want to push my luck. So you can see how much easier, though, if you've made ribbons like this with your hand cranking it, just having 2 hands to work with makes all the difference in the world. Okie dokie. So the next step, oh my god, did I just okie dokie? Roll with it. Okay. So we have our very long ribbon that wants to stick to everything because this Sculpey 3 is very soft and very sticky, which I actually kind of like for canes because whenever I'm doing like veneers and stuff, I can get it to like stick together to the other clays, but I don't know, to each their own. You're going to get a cleaner, more defined cane with a firmer clay. And so I'm just starting to roll up the end, trying real hard to not catch any air bubbles, trying to keep lined up with my ends. Just rolling it up nice and even. And you can see some of it squeezing out the end. That's fine. That happens. And we're just rolling on up through. You can see now it's starting to get to where it's darkening down a little bit, getting into the darker end of the cane. And this is just a regular old like bullseye jelly roll cane, but it's what we do with it from here that is going to make it really fun and interesting. So I'm actually going to put this into the freezer for a little bit to let it firm up before we start doing any cutting on it, because right now it is super well conditioned, super squishy. So we've let this firm up a little bit, and while it was chilling, I went ahead and mixed together the scrap from our bright green and Granny Smith into this thin sheet. I have it rolled out to about 1 millimeter, or the 5th setting on my pasta machine. And then I also mixed almost a full like segment. This was about how much I've been using of each color, by the way, of about half a segment of the poppy seed Sculpey Souffle, it's what I have, with the rest of the leaf green from this project. So, yay. And again, rolled it out on the 5th setting. So what I'm going to do now is just set this on the end there, trying to pick it up. Yeah, now that it's cold, it's not wanting to stick to anything. Bringing it, just rolling it around until it meets again. And then I'm going to cut where it stopped meeting. I'm going to bring that. It's okay. I feel like if you have a little overlap, it's not the end of the world. Just flattening that out with my fingers. And now we are going to wrap this in our black, well, black-green mix. And I don't want the seam to overlap, so I'm actually going to go opposite side. Bring that just around. Again, giving it a nice little cut. Just shaping with my fingers. And now we can trim off the excess. We're going to be doing a lot of trimming off the ends on this, and I save all of it, and this is actually what I use whenever I do my mossy scrap blends for in my fairy houses, or if you need like another green or something. So I'm going to be taking this and I'm going to roll it out just a little bit just to get everything joined together really nicely. You can see the way it's spreading already. That's okay. Okay. Nice and spread. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to take this, and it's just squared off. It's like a roller, but it's squared. And I'm just going to take it and press in like that. And you could also use a knitting needle. Works really well for this. Just something round that you can take, like a round thin knitting needle, and press quite firmly into the edges. We're kind of distorting everything, and that's okay. Just kind of bringing that in. Now also, if I could find it again, oops, I'm going to take the back edge of my scissors. I want something a little bit more squared. And take this and just use that to press down. You could also use the back edge of your tissue blade, your thicker tissue blade if you have one, which I have one, I just can't find it. Go figure. This is why it's important to clean up your mess, Fawn. Ah, well. So you can just use whatever you find on hand, really. And this is going to give us a really interestingly imprinted. And you can see, repetitively going around the edges. Then roll it all out. Kind of getting it all smooshed together. Now also, I want to save different sizes of this plug, of this cane. And so I'm going to cut right here. And again, it's quite soft, so you can see how that gave us a really nice edging. I'm going to save some that are large without any lines or anything in them. And then I'm going to reduce this down even more. And then you can just keep cutting off the segments. So now I have a nice medium size. And then I'm going to reduce this one even further. Hey, doggy. I usually like to do almost an inch, half an inch, and then a quarter of an inch. In that way I will have 3 sizes of lily pads that I can choose from. And so to do a little lily pad, I would just cut, reshape any smushing that might have happened, come in with my scissors and snip to give it that nice open shape. And then you can pinch out the edges. And now you have a very cute little lily pad that you can either add to, you can bake it. Oh, I stretched it too far. You want a nice sharp point of where the split comes. You could bake this and add it to resin projects, or you could add it unbaked, raw like this. But we also have the option of kind of doing some little lines. Whoop. Kind of radiating a little bit. Give some texture to our lily pads. And you could use a much more realistic color scheme. I really like this like toxic glowy color scheme for in my fairy houses and stuff. But it's your creation, do it however you like. So I found my favorite way of doing for the lily pads is to kind of take, this is a porcupine quill, and I'm setting it against the clay and then dragging outward from the center. So you can kind of see. And it gives this really interesting edge to it, but also it gives a nice little deep cut line. Kind of pull it up. And again, I'm making very fantasy inspired lily pads, so you can do however you like. And then I'm just going to come in with my scissors and snip and snip, because I think I prefer removing a chunk that way. I really need some finer tipped scissors so that it doesn't just give me a squared off tip, but there we go. And then I would set this on a tile to bake. And then I'm actually going to be, let me zoom out and show you. I'm going to be floating them in this pond, which you can see needs about, maybe quarter of an inch, half an inch at the most of resin added to it. Just so that it goes out the waterfall section over here. And so I'm going to bake them, set them on the surface, and then pour some more resin. And this fairy house is actually the giveaway for June 2018 for my patrons. Hey y'all, thank you so much for hanging out with me for this tutorial. I do hope that it was helpful to you. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave them down below. If you would like to share pictures of your work, you can share it to my wall on Facebook, or you can tag me on Instagram. Links for all of my social media will be down in the video description as well. I think I mentioned this, but all the tools and materials that I've used or would recommend will be down in the video description as well, with Amazon affiliate links. So if you guys want to support our channel and you're already a patron and you've already liked, shared, and subscribed, going through and purchasing things through those links is very helpful to us. So we really appreciate everything that y'all do to help keep this channel going. So thank you guys again for that. And until next time, happy crafting, and I will see y'all around. Bye!